Hello everyone, this is Alex with the Sachem Public Library, and today we will be going over a tutorial on Affinity Photo. Affinity Photo is a photo editing software that can be used in replacement of Adobe Photoshop or other photo editing softwares. Today we will be going over the basics of Affinity Photo, covering the different tools and interfaces that it offers, and then in future videos we'll be going over some more advanced techniques and tools that you could use to manipulate photos. We can open a photo to start, and then we can go through the different panels that they have. So we'll open this photo first. Okay, so now that we have our photo open, we can take a look up at the top left here, and you have personas. So personas are Affinity's way of organizing specific types of tools to perform certain types of jobs. So the first persona that you're going to spend most of your time is the photo persona. This is where you'll find the majority of the most commonly used tools while photo editing. The next persona is the liquify persona. So once you're in the liquify persona, this allows you to do mesh-based editing. So you can modify your photo based on changing and altering the mesh. So we can cancel. That will bring us back to the photo persona. The next persona is the develop persona. This allows you to edit raw files and adjust their exposure and different color points to prepare them for editing in the photo persona. So you have a handful of slider-based tools to modify the brightness, exposure, black points, contrast, clarity, and other effects to prepare it for editing in the photo persona. The next persona here we have is tone mapping. This allows you to adjust the tone map of your files for HDR files. So this allows you to correct your HDR files so that way they look normal on an SDR screen. So you can adjust your tone compression and other different effects on your photo. The final persona that we have here is the export persona. This allows you to export only specific parts of your image. So if you only wanted to export this, you can then save just this part of your image. We're not really going to be working in export persona so much. We're instead really going to be focusing on the photo persona. In order to export the entire image, you can go to File and then go to Export. And this will allow you to choose whatever format of export file that you're looking for, as well as the resolution if you're in an image file, and you can change the different presets here. All right. On the right hand side here, we have a handful of different menus to adjust while working on our image. So we have a histogram of our color channels. We have our color picker panel here. We have a handful of swatches to pick from, and then we have brushes. So this allows us to adjust our brush size, thickness, and we have a handful of different brush menus to choose from. So if we wanted to focus on watercolor brushes, we could choose a specific brush for that. In the middle panel here, we have color adjustment. So we can go to level adjustment and then lighten our image or darken it or leave it at default. And then you have many other different adjustment tools here. So we can apply lens filters. We can adjust the color balance. If we wanted to make the image more red, we can drag this slider up here. The next menu we have here is layers. So this allows us to view all of the different layers of adjustments and edits that we've made on our current video. The next panel that we have here is our layer panel. This panel allows us to view all of the changes and adjustments that we've made on our current photo. We can hide or remove by clicking delete on that particular layer. The next panel we have here is effects. This allows us to place different types of effects on our object. So we can create shadows or blur. The next panel that we have here are style effects. So we can apply different borders or other effects to our image if we desired. Or you can turn them off. Down at the bottom here, we have our navigator panel. So we can zoom in and out with the navigator panel. You can also change your zoom by scrolling in and out by holding Control. Then we have our history. So this is where we can view our undo history, and we can revert to a particular point in our previous history. You have your RGB color channel selection here, and then you have your 32-bit HDR panel here. So that's really only used if you're working with 32-bit HDR content. The next panel that we're going to be taking a look at is the leftmost panel here. So this is your toolbar. This is where most of the content that you're going to be working with in order to edit your photo will be located. You have your view tool, so this will allow you to pan your view around, and it will tell you that you can drag to pan view down in the bottom left here. This tool is your move tool, so you can drag to move a selected item. You can click another object to select it. You can click on an empty area to deselect your selection. The next tool we have here is the color picker tool. This allows us to change our brush setting. So if we look at our color here, the color of our selected item will become whatever we have selected at that given point. So if we want, for example, that color right there, that will change our selected pixel color to this, which will allow us to use other tools such as Paintbrush or Paint Bucket to apply that color in other places in our document. Then we have our crop tool. This allows us to crop and modify our document. The next tool we have is our selection brush. This allows us to draw a selection onto our image. Then we have a flood select tool. This allows us to select areas of our photo. So we can set tolerance here. So if we want our tolerance to be higher, we can select a larger amount of our document. Then we have our freehand selection tool. So this allows us to draw a selection. Then we have our flood fill tool. This allows us to paint based on the color that we have selected on our current color palette. Then we have a gradient tool, which allows us to apply gradients to particular selections of images. Then we have a paintbrush tool, which allows us to paint based on our selected color up in our color palette. Then we have a paint mixer brush. This allows us to mix colors into other parts in our document. We have an erase tool, so this can erase parts of our document. Then we have our burn brush tool. This allows us to burn edges of our document and darken certain parts of it. Then we have our clone brush tool. So we can select a source. So if we wanted to copy part of the sky over, we can hold Alt and click to select a source. So I want to copy here. And then if I click and drag, I can paint where the black cursor is onto where I am actually dragging. So this allows us to redraw parts of our image. Then we have undo brush. This allows us to undo different parts of our photo work while we were editing. So if we want to undo a particular area of modifications, we can drag over that particular area to undo the work we've done there. Then we have a blur brush to blur edges of different objects. Healing brush tool to patch out particular areas of a material based on a source. So similar to the clone brush tool, it will try to heal the document based on where you selected your source to be. Next, we have our pen tool. This will allow us to define different points in the document. And you can modify and adjust the curve. Next, we have our shape tool here. So the default option is a rectangle tool. So we can draw that shape. Then we have a text tool, so this allows us to type into our document, and then we can select the size of this text here. We can adjust the color of the text. We can change the font, the style, and other things. The next item we have here is the Mesh Warp tool. This allows us to apply perspective warp based on our edges or other points, so we can continue to modify this particular image. And you'll notice some of these tools on the left-hand side here have these triangle icons in the corner. This means that there are additional tools underneath that tool. So for example, the freehand selection tool has a number of tools underneath it. In order to access those tools, right-click on the tool on the toolbar, and it will bring up a menu of those other tools. So that can be done on any of these existing tool options here. Additionally, for any tool that you select that has options for that particular tool, such as a paintbrush, you will have an additional bar that appears right here below your personas menu that allows you to modify that particular brush. So if you want to change the width of that brush, you can adjust the width in pixels. You can change the opacity. You can change the flow rate, the hardness of the brush. You can view additional brush selection options here by clicking on More, and this will allow you to change brush dynamics, brush texture, and other brush options. You can enable a stabilizer. You can change the mode from rope to window mode. You can change the length of the brush. You can mirror your brush, and you can change the way that the brush applies onto your document by modifying the blend mode, so you can apply it as darker to lighten. So I can add this brush here, or if I wanted to blend as color dodge, I can have it do that, or if I wanted it to blend as luminosity, I can have it do that. Finally, you have a handful of tools up here in the main menu in addition to your personas. So these are your auto adjust tools. So you have auto levels, auto contrast, auto colors, and auto white balance. Then we have our selection tools here. So we have select all, deselect, invert selection. You also have a quick mask option here. You have pixel alignment, move whole pixels, and you have snapping, so you can enable snap to grid or snapping around certain shapes or objects. Then you have your assistant manager, which will allow you to modify how you're interacting with your document. So it can automatically share between tools. It can apply brush painting by automatically rasterizing a layer when you try to edit vector layers. You have your positioning tools here. So if you have multiple layers that you're working with, you can move the layer forward or backwards in the document. You have alignment, which changes how things are aligned within your overall document. And then you have your insert tools. So if you have something in your clipboard, you can insert it inside, on top, or behind the current selection. So if you want something within the current layer that you're working in, you can use this option here to insert that object into the current layer, or you can insert it above or below. So that will conclude our quick tutorial for today. Next time we'll be going over some more advanced topics, such as using in-painting brushes or making modifications to existing photos. I'd like to thank everyone for watching today. I hope you all have a wonderful day.